The AAC Report is brought to you by Blahut of Realty One Group. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, call Blahut anytime at 407-748-0484. Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. We thank you so much for listening. Hope you're staying well and staying safe. Coming up on this edition, we chat with Joe Miller of the Navy Radio Network, doing an overall check-in on the Naval Academy. The Navy-Notre Dame game being moved from Ireland to be a home game for the midshipmen for the first time ever, and what life will be after Malcolm Perry. We'll talk to Joe coming up next when the AAC Report continues in just a moment. Are you tired of the endless money pit of paying rent? Do you have a home you need to sell for top dollar? Talk to the Hometown Advantage award-winning real estate professional and fellow UCF Knight, Blake Blahut of Realty One Group. Blake has proven to produce results and a smooth process for his clients all across Central Florida. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, talk to Blake Blahut. Visit him at his website, blakesorlandohomes.com, or contact him anytime at 407-748-0484. Again, blakesorlandohomes.com and 407-748-0484. Get the hometown advantage by working with Blake.
Raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney is our commitment to you at Chad Barr Law. I'm Chad Barr, and as a UCF alum, I am proud to present Knightline, the morning after show, Central Florida's only call-in show dedicated to our UCF Knights every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And remember, if you or a loved one are injured in an auto accident, call us at 407-599-9036 to schedule your free consultation or visit us at chadbarlaw.com. Our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices Altamont Springs. Go Knights. Charge on.
It is our pleasure to welcome back to the podcast a friend of the program, Joe Miller of the Navy Radio Network. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to be here once again.
No problem, Jeff. Glad to be here as always.
And first question we always like to ask is how everybody is doing up that way and how you've been filling your time with non-sports in the world that we live in.
Yeah, family's doing fine, so I appreciate you asking. And it's been a different time, that's for sure. But doing a little bit more schoolwork here at home. I got two little ones. Well, not little ones. I guess 10 and 6. They would be mad if I called them little ones. But most of the portion of the day is taken up doing schoolwork, at least in the morning. But it's been a little bit weird. I've caught up on pretty much every game that I probably should have watched. Watching every old game possible. But hopefully we're moving in the right direction, and hopefully we have football going forward.
Yes, hopefully so. And speaking of football, just announced recently that the Navy-Notre Dame game that was going to kick off the season in Ireland will not be played there, but instead will be relocated to be a home game for the Naval Academy, and we certainly hope that will be one that will be attended by fans. And this will be the first time ever that Notre Dame will have played at Navy. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hopefully everything comes off and everything works out, and we start the season on time, and everything in that manner is on track for doing that. And I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be really unique to have them in the stadium because, for years we played them in all kinds of sort of different locations. Obviously, was looking forward to getting the chance to go to Ireland. I didn't go the last trip, and obviously that's not going to happen this year, but, played them out in San Diego, and usually, it's been either in the NFL stadiums near here, either Baltimore or Washington, that's also hosted the game. We've been up in New York City for the game as well. So, it's obviously, we don't know at this point whether fans are going to be there or not, or if there is going to be a cap on the amount of people. But it's kind of cool how the interest is sort of peaked. And it would be a unique situation, there's no doubt, to have them playing in Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Obviously, with the AAC over the last couple of years, we hosted a lot of a ranked competition that we didn't necessarily see in the independent days. You would occasionally get a team that comes in with a national ranking, but obviously Notre Dame's going to be that to start the season in a unique situation. If they are, coming, with fans here as well. I saw an article the other day in the local newspaper about how hot a ticket it could possibly be, and all that stuff is still yet to be worked out. But it is exciting. A, just to get football back, but B, if Notre Dame is coming to Annapolis, it will be a unique situation that not a lot of people would expect to see. So it would be a cool environment. There's no doubt about that. And it just, even if people aren't there or there's a limited attendance, just to have Notre Dame in the stadium for all these years that we've played Notre Dame, to have it in Annapolis, I think is kind of cool and unique. And look, from the competition standpoint, I think it would help the Mids to have the game at home. And obviously, it's going to be a unique scenario, but obviously, just kick football off. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully everything comes down and we're ready to go that first weekend of the season.
And of course, I also neglected to ask before we started, the pandemic has, of course, shut down all the colleges and universities, and the Naval Academy is certainly unique among the world of college and universities. How much is there any difference to the Naval Academy getting affected by the pandemic versus other colleges and universities?
No, not really. I mean, my wife works for an athletic department in the area as well, not at the Naval Academy, and it really hasn't been that different. I mean, everybody kind of went home around mid-March. They told everybody to go home, and that's not unique to the Naval Academy. And they had commissioning week, which is the equivalent to graduation. They usually have it a whole week of ceremony, the week before Memorial Day weekend, and they had a muted ceremony. I mean, they did it in groups of 40 or 50, but for the most part, no, it's not that different from anywhere else.
Okay.
I mean, I forget the exact date, but mid-March, when everything started to shut down, they stayed around for about a couple more days, but then they told everybody to go home. So it's pretty similar, and I think when you look from the football perspective, it's the same scenario that a lot of coaches are dealing with right now. It's like, what are our players doing right now? Obviously, they try to keep connected during this time with the many different ways that you try to stay connected in this pandemic. But no, Jeff, I don't think it's that different from than most schools are experiencing. I think the one thing that is going to be different is going forward. At least it seems like different places are opening up at different times, and that'll be the unique situation. So as of right now, I don't know if there's any official plans for practice dates or anything like that. And, at least I'm not aware of that. But I think that's the one unique thing where we'll see over the next couple of weeks and months. And some places will start bringing back students. And I don't know if that date has been announced just yet.
Well, of course, as we look ahead to what we hope will be a 2020 football season, the Naval Academy will have to replace one Malcolm Perry, the AAC Player of the Year, had basically a stat sheet filler of a season with all the numbers that he put up and the spectacular play that he provided in the leadership. You've kind of been through this before when, you had a great player like Keenan Reynolds at the quarterback position, graduated, and took a little time to kind of fill that void. Who is the next man up, and is this going to have to be a by-committee situation?
Well, I think, first of all, Perry Olsen was the guy that on the depth chart would technically be the next guy up. And, he played it at times last year. And, talking about how, when people are going to come back and what practice looks like. And I think this is a big part of what this competition is going to look like. I mean, whenever they're back and whatever that date is and how many weeks of practice they have, I think will help determine what their direction they're going to go. I think Olsen, who was a quarterback in high school who ran this option offense, he won the battle for the backup job in the beginning of the season last year. I think he does have a little bit of a leg up on the competition just because he has that experience. in high school, and he obviously was the next man up this past season. But I think there is a group of 3 or 4 guys that are in the mix. The one thing that I would always say about because of the offense that they run and because of the talent that they bring in, there's a lot of guys that have had success, and it's going to be a battle. I mean, I don't think it's going to be completely handed to Perry Olsen to be the guy. I mean, he's going to have to earn it. I think they like what he can do. He's not as an explosive runner as Malcolm, but he is a tough runner. And it's been sort of 2 styles of quarterbacks we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years. It's either been your kind of a explosive guy like a Malcolm Perry that can make some plays that you just don't see other guys make, or it's your 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And Olsen, I think, fits that mold, but I think he can actually throw the ball pretty well as well. I think they're excited about his ability to throw the football. There's some other guys in the mix, but one of their most explosive playmakers last year played at wide receiver, Chance Warren, and he played some quarterback in high school, and they've kind of mentioned it time, and he actually had one of the big pass plays in the Kansas State game in the Liberty Bowl. And I think at times they've talked about maybe moving him back to the quarterback spot. But if this is a condensed schedule, I don't know how that affects things right now when we're talking about practice time. But I wouldn't be surprised. Warren's the type of explosive athlete that last year they kind of just said we need to find a way to get him on the field, so they put him at wide receiver, and he flourished. He made some big plays, and he's got that mentality of that, that mentality that you're looking for from the position, from a guy that can play the position of quarterback. And so I would put it out around the possibility, but I do think the way the schedule is going to lay out and how the practice leading up to the beginning of the season, if there's any sort of adjustment that needs to be made, I think they're going to lean on some guys that have been in the system before, but they are they are excited about some of the talented youngsters that they have. It's just Jeff, it's so tough at the Naval Academy to expect any freshman to come in and contribute right away, because you're dealing with Cleve Summer and you're dealing with that whole aspect, and then you're trying to learn a system. And even though that they might be excited about some of those guys, I mean, it's tough to walk in here as a freshman, or even as a guy that played at the prep school, which the Naval Academy uses sort of as a pseudo red shirt. They don't like to say that, but they have this prep school where they can bring guys in and get them used to the military lifestyle, and then they can come to Annapolis with a year under their belt. Even for those guys, it's tough to sort of walk in. They have to go through Cleve Summer as well to walk into a situation, even though they might have a better idea of what the offense looks like. But there are some guys that they like from that quarterback spot. But, I mean, it's going to be, I think, really determined on how much practice time and how much adjustments they can make at that position. But there's some guys that they like. But I think Olsen gets the first shot to sort of be the starting quarterback on opening day.
Well, of course, last season was a bounce-back season for Navy after a couple down years, finishing 11-2 under Coach Ken Niumatalolo, who was adaptable to change. The forward pass and some shotgun became a little bit more prevalent in the offense. He brings on Brian Newberry as a new defensive coordinator. You reminisce a little bit for me about those changes and how impactful they were for the program.
Well, I think the first thing that pops out is, with Coach Newberry coming in, and the thing that it's funny, Jeff, you talk about every new defensive coordinator, I don't care if it's at Florida State or Boise State or Navy, talks about when they come in as a new coach, we're going to be more aggressive. We're going to push the offense around. We're going to dial things up. We're going to be different than what we've seen in the past. And I don't know if there was a coach that had a better first year than Brian Newberry last year. I mean, the defense changed completely, did a 180. And obviously he was being courted this offseason by a couple schools in Mississippi State. He turned down that offer to stay at Navy, and that was a success for the Mids this offseason. It's one of the bigger successes to have him come back for another year, and I think he really enjoyed coaching at the Naval Academy. I think his family really enjoyed being in this area, and I think that's a big reason why he was able to stay around and come back. And I think that's a big win for this Navy team, because that adjustment, the more aggressive, the more attacking style, there's a lot of people around here that didn't think that could be done at the Naval Academy, and I think Brian Newberry proved that it could be done, and it could be done at a successful and at a high level. So that was a huge change. To make the changes that they made on the coaching staff, that was something that was a major storyline coming in the season. The other storyline was, ironically enough, at the beginning of the season, was could Malcolm be the quarterback? I mean, there was a lot of questions about whether or not he could sustain and be healthy at the quarterback position, whether he could run the offense. And they did adjust things slightly. They brought in Billy Ray Stutzman from the University of Hawaii, added some read-and-shoot elements to what they were doing offensively. And I think, during the course of the season, was it run a ton? No, but the 15% of the time that they would run some of these passing things, I think it really helped them. One of the things we talked about with Ivan Jasper, the offensive coordinator, was they needed to come up with some of the stuff in the short to intermediate range passing ways that got guys off the line of scrimmage. And I think they tinkered with that, and they were able to do some of those things. And I think that it just added a little bit of a different element to what they wanted to do offensively that helped them progress. Because coming into last season, a lot of talk about whether or not the AAC had figured out the offense, what they were going to do strategy-wise going forward to adjust things. And really, they made a couple minor changes, but they didn't make any huge changes on the offensive side, and they had one of their best offensive seasons that they've had. I mean, they were fantastic, especially within the conference running the football. Really, nobody slowed them down throughout most of the season, and obviously they had the best that they had. And it was those minor adjustments on the offensive side. I think they did a couple different things on the offensive side. They tweaked a couple things, but I think the biggest difference was on the defensive side. And they became an attacking unit that wreaked havoc, that was able to get to the quarterback and turn people over. And I think that was his biggest adjustment and the biggest change that we saw from this team last year. And obviously it played a huge role in the success that they had.
And, of course, now they go to the 2020 season that we're, of course, keeping our fingers crossed for. How do you think things will develop? The only loss Navy had in conference was to Memphis last year, but this year there'll be no divisions. So how do you think that'll play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we were looking at it. I was talking to a couple people the other day about the schedule, and it was like, at the beginning of the season, because you had that trip to Ireland, you looked at the schedule a little bit different than you do now. When you look at the schedule now and you see that as a home game, I think the schedule actually plays out pretty well for them. It's a little, the tricky game is going to be out of conference for Air Force early this season. That has always been a game for them that obviously it's not a conference game. So when we talk about the conference, it doesn't have a huge impact, but it sort of dictated a lot of the way that they played early in the season, and they've had success out there. And it's been a while since they've won out there. But when you look at the schedule, I think it sets up pretty well for them. Look, they have to figure out the quarterback situation, so you can't go projections on offense have to be a little bit brought down a tad because you don't know when you're going to get out of that quarterback spot. But they returned Jamel Carruthers at the D-back, who had this breakout season last year. They return a lot on defense. Now, they lost a couple people to the transfer portal. Jacob Springer doesn't look like he's going to be back. Their outside linebacker, striker position, they've lost a couple of guys there. But they actually return a lot on defense. And I look at their secondary as a strength, the safeties as a strength. Obviously, I think their defense, they got a couple of guys that they need to fit into the puzzle, but I think it's a defense that actually can carry them a little bit as they try to figure out the quarterback situation. They try to figure out the offensive situation. So, I think, look, expectations should be high for this team. I think they do return a lot of talent. But it's funny, Jeff. We were talking about this the other day. Like, I don't know the way this season's going to start and the way this season's going to happen. Hopefully everything works well. I think you're going to see a lot of surprises because you never know. I just don't know how the preparation is going to be for across the board for these teams. So I think that they're in the mix for the AAC. I don't see how you can't put them in the mix. And obviously, there are going to be questions about the quarterback position. They've done a good job of replacing guys, and it's not necessarily a system guy because guys bring different traits to different positions. But I think they're pretty comfortable there, and I think they should be able to compete with anybody in the conference. I think that they think, I think at the beginning of the last season, I think people were surprised that they were talking 7 or 8 wins, but I think that they think they can compete in this conference, and I think the divisions, I think that does shift things a little bit and open the race up. And I think, I think Memphis is going to be in the mix, obviously, with the talent they come back with. There's a lot of fluctuation in this league, obviously with coaching changes at Memphis, but I think Navy should expect to be in the mix, just like this sort of similar teams that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and of course it's become a burgeoning conference, and it's a battle week in and week out. That is for sure. So, Joe, wanted to also ask you about a podcast that you do with your broadcast partner Pete Medhurst. It's called It's College Football. And one of the things you've been doing of late is a week-by-week of the 1987 season, which has been quite interesting. Let's tell the folks a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up. It's weird how it kind of worked out. I started the project, like, writing it out and sort of going through the highlights in December. And it sort of fit into with everything that went down, with everybody sort of looking back at through time about things, everybody watching old games because there's no live games. It kind of worked out, and it sort of fit what we're doing. So, it's been awesome. It's funny. I was working on another project, my regular day job. I'm a producer here in the Baltimore, D.C. area for a TV show, and we were for a news program, and we were doing a piece on the 1988 election. And one of the things that I felt, there was like all this footage from different presidents visiting candidates visiting teams during the 87 college football season, that I was sort of doing a research on why they were there and different things, and sort of how they were how it meshed with college football. And then I started to watch all these games from 1987, and then so we skipped that year, and it's been cool kind of going through all the old games, and sort of, because there's not a ton of talk about in college football right now. It's starting to heat up a little bit more, but the last couple months that we've kind of gone through week by week of the 1987 season, sort of going through the highlights of some of the big and best games. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've gotten some good feedback on it. And no, I appreciate you bringing it up. It was a lot of work, and it was sometimes difficult to try to put everything together with me and Pete in 2 different locations and trying to figure out how to do highlights. And obviously, as you know, trying to put a podcast together in all different places. But it's been fun, and I hope that if people get a chance to check it out, like you said, it's college football. It's on most every podcast format. So, I hope people get to check it out because it's been a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and your most recent episode, you focuses on a number 1, number 2 matchup between Nebraska and Oklahoma. That's got a Keith Jackson game written all over it.
Yeah, it's funny because me and Pete, Pete is the play-by-play guy, Medhurst, and I'm the color guy for Navy. Pete's a little bit older. I was 8 years old, or 8 years old in 1987. Pete's 10 years older than me. But it's funny. This is sort of one of the other things we started with 87. Sort of my remembering of first college football games, and it's funny, like, talking to him about what he remembers from stuff and what I remember from stuff, and going back and watching things. I mean, it's funny because of the fact that now I cover an option team, but I used to love watching option football as a little kid. So I used to love watching those Oklahoma and Nebraska teams with guys like Jamel Holloway and Steve Taylor, and obviously you had a lot more option teams back then. But it's funny that now you look forward to this time and you're covering option teams, and It's still a big part of what I enjoy about college football, the variety and the different spice of life that you get in college football. So it's cool to go back and look at those teams and what they were doing, and sort of at that highest level of, you had 2 or 3 teams in the top 10 or 15 that were running the option and having a ton of success. And now it's quite different. So it's fun to look back at those stats and those numbers and how those different teams got to those different rankings, completely opposite of what you see a lot in college football today.
Yeah, and of course, during the regular season, you and Pete cover all of college football on a week-to-week basis,
Yep.
So that's really, really good stuff. Well, Joe, we certainly appreciate you coming on. Hopefully next time we get together, we'll be doing a full preview of Navy for the 2020 season, not too far down the road.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully, obviously, we're all hoping for football this off season to get over with and get ready back to the games. It should be hopefully a lot of fun.
Sounds
Appreciate
good.
It, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. And we thank Joe again for joining us, and we'll be back to wrap up this edition of the AAC Report in just a moment.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Fagley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning at our new time, 10 to 11 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. Brought to you by Chad Barlaw. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 10 to 11 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
Night Nation, this is Adam, one half of the dynamic duo that is the Sons of UCF, which is found only on the Knightline Sports Network. Join UCF Mike and I each week as we bring you some of the latest from in and around UCF sports, including such great segments as the Josh Heupel Translator, Top 8 Lists, and Cow of the Week. We'll also bring you some of the most in-depth and unique interviews with some of your favorite former Knights. You don't want to miss a moment, so make sure you subscribe to the Knightline Sports Network wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll take care of the rest. Go Knights. Charge on.
As we pull things to a close on this week's show, we give you our usual reminders. Please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88. And please check out my personal podcast at JeffAllenSportsTalk.com. And please like and share all of our Knightline Sports Network programming on social media and wherever you get your podcast. And also share the content and social media of those who participate on our programs. Thanks again for listening. This has been the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Stay safe and stay well.